welcome to the BPD Bunch Brunch, where we get together with our favorite brunchy beverages to catch up, play games, and talk about all things BPD. I'm your host, Zanny, and today I am here with Mo, Alex, Raf, Katya, and Darren. Where's
What's
everybody coming from today?
Australia. It is 5 a.m. It is very brunch time.
Oh. I'm coming from New Jersey, which, unlike what a lot of people think, it is not the armpit of America.
I'm coming from Ohio, like always.
Wimbledon in London.
West Midlands in the UK.
Today, we are going to do a Q&A episode. We got a bunch of different questions from our viewers, so we are going to be answering the questions. And the first one is for everyone, and that is, what is the best way you've found to find friends and a community that you relate to?
Whoa.
For me, it was just Instagram, I'll be honest. Like, at least in terms of BPD, it's not like most places have meetup groups. I mean, maybe they do now, but I've never heard of, like, a place where you could just go, and it was always weird to make friends with people, like, from therapy, because there's like a different level of struggle there that's like, I don't know, it feels like you need some boundaries. And so yeah, I think for me it was just Instagram.
I think Instagram as well for me, like, or just social media in general. Like, social media gets a lot of like flack, but literally yesterday I was at like a hottest 100 day. I knew the people there just through Instagram, just through vibing on like similar things and then staying in touch and then growing out from there, or like workout classes, gyms and stuff like that.
I feel like I actually didn't really have a community on Instagram until the BPD Bunch, which has been like such a game changer for me. But I'm trying to think, like, back before, I mean, when I was in college, part of me really wanted to be like the typical person, like join a sorority and stuff, and it just like wasn't for me. And I found my people in acapella, and I did an acapella group. Talk about people who understand you. It's like, we're all weirdos. It was like the first place I ever went where I felt like I could truly be myself. And I was like, damn, we're all weird here. It was great. And they're still my best friends. So
Yeah, you did acapella is awesome. I did not know you did that.
yeah, I loved it. We did it. It was alternative rock acapella group. We were called the Treble Makers.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
We came before the Pitch Perfect Treble Makers, though, I have to say. Long before.
So for me, I kind of see where Alex is coming from, because actually I do have people that I've met, sort of a community on Instagram. However, I do know quite a few people in real life where I've managed to get support for BPD and for personality disorders. I don't know if anyone else can relate, but when I was at school, I was a bit of an outsider because people thought I was weird. And what happened is, as I went through school, like, all of the weird kids realised that there was safety in numbers, and we kind of hung out together to stop being picked on. And I don't know how it's happened, but gradually over the years it's kind of transpired that we've all ended up with some kind of personality disorder, and I don't know whether there's anything in that. But apparently like attracts like.
Our friendship group is the same, the exact same.
Instagram for me, yeah. I mean, getting late diagnosis meant I didn't sort of, it wasn't for me to go and find teenagers and start talking and say, "Hey, I'm one of you," because I'd look like some kind of weird old man, sort of. But so it was essentially going on to Instagram and just doing searches and just finding people. My friendship groups, very similar to Katya in some ways. It's sort of, I've always attracted to outsiders. Whether it be, in the school environment, we'd be the ones who would be like dressed like goths, or, sort of, wearing eyeliner or nail varnish, sort of that side of things. Because I grew up in a farming town, and if you didn't wear bootcut jeans and a check shirt, well, I'll say that when we're on now, but you were basically a weirdo. And so in a small town, farming town, we were the weirdos, sort of thing. And mainly because we liked different music, different films, and we were quite arty, and that was it. You just go through life attracting similar sort of people because you feel some protections and safe with them, rather than sort of going out and trying to interact with the jocks of the world.
Mo?
When I first heard this question, my answer was Instagram. Like, that's how I connected with other people with BPD. And But then hearing like Katya and Darren talk, I also was an outsider, and a lot of the people that I hung out with were kind of outsiders as well. Not everyone, but a lot of people. So as far as knowing people in real life with BPD, I don't know anybody. You know, I don't even know people with like any type of personality disorder. So I pretty much just stick to Instagram for that feeling of connection with other people.
So the next question we got was for Alex, and it is, what have been the benefits and drawbacks of being a therapist who has BPD?
That's a really, really good question, because I've been thinking about that a lot recently. I really realized that, like, you know, because I can show that I'm healthy and I'm in a spot where I can be a therapist and be effective, I think what makes me, I mean, I think I'm a good therapist. I'd like to think I'm a good therapist. I think what makes me different than other people is my sense of empathy, like my ability to be extremely empathetic for people, which can also be maybe a drawback too, because you don't want to be too invested in your patients. I mean, you have to be invested, but you don't want to empathize too much so that it's not, there's a point where it can be like unhelpful, you know, because it's like you start to just like see the world from their eyes, and you still have to challenge people and challenge people's thoughts and, you know, push them to change. So if I'm too empathetic, I'm pulled to side with them. I'm pulled to see the world from their eyes sometimes, but I just noticed that. And that's something that I've really had to like work on as I became a therapist. So I think the empathy is one of the things that's the best. I also I like to work with personality disorders. Like if I have the option to work with someone with a personality disorder, I'm like, choose me, because it's like, to me, I like a challenge, but I also have the empathy for it. And I feel like I have the desire to and like the ability to, which is really great.
The next question we got was for Darren, and it says, I am a late diagnosis too. How do you reconcile your identity now with your past self?
I don't have a perfect answer at all for this. It's still an ongoing thing, and it always will be. I can definitely recognize the changes in me since my diagnosis. And I've gone through probably most of my life without knowing it. And, you know, that means I've gone through education, I've gone through career, all this sort of stuff without having it diagnosed. So it is sort of a challenge, because you can't start conversations with it because people already know you as this person. And so I've struggled at times to behave as I used to when I know that I've fundamentally changed. A lot of my views have changed, a lot of the way I see the world, a lot of my outlook. So it's a tough one. I did for a period go, I've apologized to lots of people who I've behaved badly to in the past. That was actually the first thing I did when I got the diagnosis. I said it doesn't excuse behavior, but I just want to let you know that I've been diagnosed with this and I am in treatment and I'm getting help and support. I would say to the person who asked the question, it's hard. It's just every day at a time, and just go easy on yourself. That's the most important thing.
The next question is for me, and it is, do you have any tips for overcoming mental blocks specific to creating art? In terms of mental blocks, when it comes to art, I find that being willing to put a halfway finished project away is really important, because when I go out and try different things or new things, or I learn something interesting, whether it's related to art or not, I usually get inspiration. So like, I never find that if I'm experiencing some sort of block, it doesn't ever work really for me to just sit there and think about it. I have to like put something down and go out and try different things, sleep on it, learn new things, just look at life in general from a different perspective. And I find that that's sort of true for almost any mental block that I experience. Like, I need to just completely step away from it and focus on something completely different and learn something new. And then usually whenever I go back to it, it helps me to get back into it. There's a lot of thought that happens in your mind that is like pre-verbal. It's not to the point where you actually think about it, but it's still happening. And so I just go off and find other things to stimulate my mind, and the pre-verbal stuff will just keep going, and eventually it feels like inspiration is struck, but I think it's really just the things back there coming through. Okay, so the next one is for everybody, and it is, do you have a secret talent? And if so, what is it?
When I was young, I taught myself how to pogo stick, and I could pogo stick for hours and hours and hours.
Nice.
Yeah, I had that mentality that was like, okay, you got 1 jump. Okay, now you're gonna get 2 jumps, and now you're gonna get 3, and then it's really not that hard. I could literally just jump around my backyard like on the pogo stick.
I love that so much. I just imagine little Alex being like,
Yes.
catch me if you can.
Oh yeah, little ADHD Alex.
I cut my own hair. I'm gonna give myself that maybe.
Hmm.
It only looks okay now, so I'll
That's a
choose
pretty
another
good
video to bring that
talent.
up in. But yeah.
That's a pretty cool secret talent, cutting your own
Yeah.
hair.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
saving money. That's the only reason.
I make the world's best Negronis
Hmm.
What's that?
cocktail.
I do love it.
So I used part of COVID lockdowns to perfect my cocktail making skills, because I thought hopefully one day it would come in useful and that we weren't going to be stuck inside for the whole of life. And then I'd just be making cocktails for myself for the rest of my life.
I think my talent is I'm good at gift buying. So like when I'm buying for someone that I know well and that I like really love, like feel like I'm really good at figuring out what gift they would want and use, and no one has ever told me otherwise. So I think I'm like great at it.
That's lovely.
I believe that.
So. Thanks.
I am really bad at it. I'm like, ugh. So
Oh,
I believe you that you're good at it.
When I was at university, I studied Germanic studies, which was essentially German and Dutch language. But then I also studied journalism. And as part of journalism, you had to study something called shorthand, which is basically when you are taking notes. It's Darren, you know what I'm on about, secretaries in the 80s. Yeah. Because when you are doing court reporting, you obviously can't take any recording devices into the courtroom, so you need to be able to take notes as quick as you can. So that's how shorthand develops. So I can actually do shorthand, and I do still use it very occasionally if I need to make notes quickly. So yeah.
But now they just have emojis, right?
Basically, yeah.
Well, they also use dictaphones now as well,
Excuse you.
so that they record the interviews or whatever. It's definitely a dying skill.
It is, and it was really annoying because they put it at 8 o'clock every single morning for the first year of journalism. So
Every morning?
you'd go out the night before and you'd have to do it every single morning, hungover to hell, trying to learn how to do shorthand. Not a good experience.
Oh, that's brutal.
Really ruined the student experience for me, I have to say.
I can match pitch very easily, and as long as I know the rhythm and the song, I can sing it or play it without having to read anything. And so I used to get in trouble for this all the time. I would ask my piano teacher, play this song for me. And it took her a really long time to realize that I was learning the song by listening to her rather than actually learning how to read the music.
Really?
I got in a lot of trouble for this. And then when she figured it out, she's like, I'm not going to play this for you. You need to learn to do it. And then I brought it home and I was like, Mom, play this song for me. She's like, okay. And then she figured it out. And then eventually I because I did not want to have to read. The next question is for Ruff. And it is, how did you figure out that you were non-binary?
For me, I don't think I ever figured it out. I've always kind of known. It's always been like a thing about me where like I don't really mesh with the whole idea of gender, and if I ever was, I was kind of just pretending to for the sake of it. For me, it never really made sense that all the things that I need to do or dress as or the ways I need to act or my whole persona should be like dictated by where my genitalia are. It just always seemed odd. And I found myself growing up doing things like, or not doing things because I was supposed to be a boy, because I was supposed to like be manly or do whatever, stuff like that. And yeah, it's kind of this consistent burning thought in the back of your head. And it wouldn't have been until maybe like 3 or 4 years ago that, just kind of finding people who, dudes that would just be like wearing a dress or a skirt or like getting their nails done. I've been doing my nails since I was like in primary school, and then stopped for a while and then did it again. Yeah, just realizing there was no real point in stopping who I wanted to be because of gender in general, like because of the idea in gender. Like, it feels like you have like this weight lifted off your shoulders. Like, sweet, I don't have to behave in this sort of way. I don't need to do all this sort of stuff. I don't need to do anything. I can just be. And yeah, getting rid of that like gender cage thing for me was just like, what did that?
So the next question is for Mo. And the question is, do you currently have a journaling routine?
I do. So I love guided journals. They're fun. But my favorite journal routine is I have one, I got it like back in 2020, and it's a 5-year journal. So every day it'll ask you a question and you just answer the question. And so now it's fun because I can look back on the past 3 years and see how my life and my answers have changed. Questions like for the month of October, it'll ask, have you ever seen a ghost, or do you believe in ghosts, and things like that. It'll also ask serious questions, do you believe in God, or do you feel fulfilled? And those questions really help me feel better, because when I'm like having a bad moment in my life, I always feel like this is never going to end. And I know in my brain, that this bad situation will end, but in your heart, like in my heart, I feel like it won't. So I can look back at that journal and I can see proof that, yeah, it really does end eventually.
Kind of just sold me on that just then on the
Yeah, same. It's funny because I've always hated journaling, but because in my mind it's always been like, here's a blank page, write something, and I'm like, but having direction seems like that would be really helpful.
Mm-hmm. And your answers can be short and sweet because you only have enough space for like, maybe 3 or 4 like sentences. But I also have a habit of like, if something like kind of unique or fun happened that day, I'll also like write that down. So like yesterday was my 3-year anniversary of meeting my little sister, the mentoring program that I'm a part of. And, like last year when my baby was born, I would write, so-and-so met my baby today. So it's really cool to just look back on that and be like, oh, that's a great memory,
I love that.
So yes, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I should do this. I'm going to do it.
Yay. That's great.
On Katya's info card, she was talking about being a fan of coffee. So one of these questions is, I am a coffee fan too. How do you like yours prepared?
So I drink almost exclusively black coffee. And the reason for that is because I don't drink milk, I tend to put oat milk into hot drinks. But I find that when I put oat milk into hot drinks, it kind of does this weird thing where it separates. And it has happened quite a few times in the past where, because of being schizotypal, I've looked into the cup and thought I've seen things in the cup, which has then kind of triggered like a mini episode of like quasi-psychosis because I think I can see things in the cup. So to avoid any of that drama, I just have black coffee now to avoid freakouts. If you put a white coffee in front of me, I would drink it out of politeness, but I'll probably be very paranoid about what's actually in the coffee.
Wow.
I just like the taste of black coffee. Your reasons.
Weren't expecting that, were you?
No. Thank you, everybody, for watching and hanging out with us as we answer your questions. We will have another Q&A episode later on in the season, so definitely be back to check that out. Next week, we will be playing BPD Bingo on our brunch episode. So join us next week and follow us on Instagram. We'll post the bingo board so that you can play along. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single episode. And we will see you next time. Bye.